unmute for a second. All right. Well, thank you all for joining today. Welcome to Solutions Summit. So today we have Ayanna Polk from the Office of Women's Advancement at the City of Boston. She is the Communications and Outreach Manager. And we invited her today to talk to us a little bit more about empowering women within the Boston community and what the League and its members can do to just kind of further what her office is doing as we learn more about what they do on a day-to-day basis and the issues facing us within the community. So it's been really helpful throughout this whole process. So I'll go ahead and hand it on over to her. And at the end, we will have some time for questions as well.
Yes, thank you, Madeline, and good afternoon, everyone. Feeling hits in, so you've got peak me right now. So my name, as Madeline has stated, my name is Ayanna Polk. I am the Communications and Outreach Manager for the Mayor's Office of Women's Advancement here in the City of Boston. In 2022, in the midst of this pandemic, and just seeing a lot of change and being in a space of, gratitude that we're all happy, healthy, and safe right now in the spectrum of things. So I just want to say, thank you for spending time with me here today. I'm really going to use this time to not only share a bit about myself and the work that Women's Advancement does for the City of Boston, but to really take this as an opportunity for us to engage and talk about some things that you would want to see. Because I know with usually when I have these conversations, I have a slide deck and I really go through, a lot of the initiatives, but I know with where we are right now as a city with having our first woman elected mayor, we're really looking at the work that we currently do and how that can grow and evolve. So, there's a lot of great things that are coming out of our office on the horizon. And I know down the line, I'll be more than happy to share that. But I know with the conversation that I'll have today, I'll kind of talk about what we've done up to this point and then kind of engage around certain issues so we can kind of chat to see, how navigating Boston for you all as women, how it impacts you, because that's how we do a lot of the things here. We try to really listen to different experiences in the city. So Mayor's Office of Women's Advancement started in 2014. Our mission is to remove systemic barriers that impact women. And for us, we focus on three main points because I know that everything impacts women, right? So for us, we, and we're a small but mighty team as well. We are growing, but right now we're at 4 folks. So you got to think about all the issues that impact women and how we could kind of manage that portfolio. But thankfully, we do see that we're growing and evolving under this administration. But for us, we focus on economic equity. And I know for a lot of folks who are professionals that, work in the Boston metro area, pay is always very important. And we want to make sure that we're closing the gender racial wage gap in Boston. And we've done a lot of great work with the Boston Women's Workforce Council around that. We actually just put out a report at the end of last year about where the numbers stand right now. And I know we're looking forward to having our first Equal Pay Day acknowledgement. I don't want to say celebration because a gap of any sort. We don't want to see that. But it's a way for us to really look at the numbers and see how we can come together as individuals and workplaces to make sure that we're closing these gaps for people. We're also looking at revamping our salary negotiation workshops. I know that we've been doing this for quite some time, but we've also recognized with talking about salary, we're leaving a lot of folks out of the conversation. There are folks who are, small business owners, independent contractors, those who work hourly. And, there's other ways that, people make a living. So we want to make sure if there's an opportunity to teach those skills, and no matter what kind of setting, it'll be more inclusive so more folks can benefit from the workshop. So we're looking forward to sharing that out, and we're working with Harvard Kennedy on the research and writing the curriculum. And we're really excited to do this in a number of languages so we can really impact as many Boston communities as possible. And then, of course, when it comes to economic equity, we have our work that we do with women entrepreneurs through the small business unit. And most importantly, which this has grown into a subset of itself, we look at childcare as an economic equity issue. With that, we understand, especially in this pandemic, I feel like I just put a big floodlight on this issue. But childcare is so essential to the way that we all navigate space, whether we have little ones or not, because of the fact that, if our little ones don't have a safe place to be while we're trying to, if we have to be in person, if we are working remote, trying to navigate all these new norms, a lot of folks, especially women, have left the workforce because it's been, the price, the availability, the wait lists. And, we've heard so much about the ecosystem in Boston and how there's even less seats. So it's so hard for working families to find quality care, accessible care outside of the 9 to 5. So our office has really done a lot of transformative work with family childcare providers, who we also look at as small business owners, who a lot of them are largely, especially in Boston, largely women of color, largely immigrant. And we wanted to make sure that we're supporting these small business owners, as well as create more seats and opportunities in neighborhoods. And we're also looking at different opportunities to support childcare that support outside of the 9 to 5, and other different initiatives. So we do have our hands in the advocacy space when it comes to childcare in that respect. And we're really excited to see how that work is going to grow going forward. Outside of the economic equity, I'll move on to safety. Safety has been another big point that we've been looking to do a deeper dive into. We've done a lot of work with Boston Police Department, Office of Public Safety, and a few other internal departments and community partners to talk about human trafficking and sexual exploitation in the Boston metro area, because especially when we think about the larger issue, because I know a lot of people are familiar with it, with mass and CAS. We know that we do see a lot of homelessness, drug abuse, and a number of different issues. But a lot of times when it comes to exploitation and human trafficking, that's kind of in the spectrum of things. Sometimes that gets a blind eye. And we want to make sure that we're creating these initiatives and being in conversation, so we make sure we're getting resources to those who are looking to exit that life, and create different pathways in ways that we can when we work together. And also doing work in domestic violence. We recently did a really great study on pet owners and how they navigate domestic violence situations, because a lot of times people don't think about pets. A lot of people think of them as children. So if you have that close relationship, sometimes they don't want to leave because of that pet. So we've looked at working with veterinarians. So when they bring their dogs in, dogs, cats, pets, if you see that, a pet is being abused, how to kind of ask certain probing questions to see if someone needs resources or how to handle those situations. So we've been just trying to think creatively on how to find opportunities to create safe spaces for women in Boston. And finally, I know for our representation piece, which is the thing that we love, that we're really making sure that we're expanding and growing into, is just really listening to the stories of the women in Boston that have contributed to the city, whether it be big or small. I know through this past year, we've celebrated different women that live in the city of Boston who are different ages, different walks of life, different professions that have just found ways to make their communities better. And shameless plug, when Women's History Month comes up and we share our calendar, we're going to be relaunching our Extraordinary Women campaign. So if you know anyone, I'll be more than happy to share that information. So that way, if you want to nominate anyone, you can share their story. We can, see if we can, celebrate them. But outside of that, naming public streets and buildings after women, because even in Boston, we see that many of them are named after men. And so many women have contributed to how strong the city is. And we want to make sure that that's seen at the most smallest of levels, bridges, whatever. We need more women present in our, as a part of the space that we navigate. So with that representation piece, of course, Women's History Month is coming up soon. I'll be sharing out the information. All of you are more than welcome to attend and, engage with us. But really, we're a small but mighty team. We're all women here in Boston who are just looking to make space more fair, more equitable, more accessible, and we have a very relational approach to the way that we do work. So that's a lot about my office. I would love to, like I said, I'm conversational. I love to chat. So if there's anything that you have a question for me about, or, I'll start throwing out topics and then we'll just start chatting. So, okay, let's see. Okay, I see. Hi, Courtney. I do see a question from you. Thank you. Courtney put in the chat, can you speak to how your office assesses its impact or effectiveness? So for us, I know what we do constantly, and I know in this past year, it's been unique because, City Hall has experienced a lot of changes, Personally, as someone, who works there, we've seen a lot of change. So for that to know, we know that no matter what, we have constituents to serve. But now we're in a space with a new administration. We really want to sit down and figure out how we can continue to be a community of neighbors and make different initiatives that, align with what the administration wants, and really, Mayor Wu and everyone is really passionate about listening to all of Boston's residents. We want to collect as many experiences and stories so we understand how we can make well-informed decisions on behalf of as many people as possible. So for us, we measure our effectiveness to see how our programs have grown over the years, seeing where there's gaps and how we can expand in different spaces. I know, for example, we have a childcare entrepreneur fund that I spoke of earlier that's really been growing since we started it. And we started it during the pandemic with a number of pivots. It was supposed to be all in person, went to online. And that program has grown exponentially, but we also know that there's areas of opportunity. when it comes to, what neighborhoods we go to, what languages we make our, make our outreach efforts in, and who we're talking to make sure as many people have the information as possible. So we see growth, but there's always space for us to evolve our practices so then they can be better. And then let's see, and then when it comes to how we perform our studies and how the data is gathered, we do it in a number of different ways. I know for our childcare reports, we have a citywide survey that goes out in the mailing for the city census. So, and it's also available online. So when the 2022 survey comes out, I'll be more than happy to share that out with you all as well. But it goes to every house in Boston. It's like I said, it's in a number of languages, so folks can fill it out. And we ask a number of questions about, childcare needs, and we collect that data. And over time, we kind of see how, the number, we pay attention to where it's coming from. And we have a team of folks who support that, who are academics and leaders in that space. So we've collected data that way. I know when we had a report in 2020, we did something more qualitative where we interviewed different parents who had different care needs, so we could, get a well-rounded response to what's happening in the moment when COVID-19 first began. So we do a lot of data work, and we have a lot of partners that support us in that. Okay. And Tara asked a good question. Are there any organizations in Boston that your office partners with or wants to partners with when it comes to economic equity? So the BWWC is our main partner where we do a lot of work. We also work with a number of small businesses and other advocacy groups and legislative folks around different policy issues when it comes to wage transparency, when it comes to needs for small businesses, everything that falls under that equity space. We always welcome partners. I feel as though a lot of times folks think in City Hall that, we have the answer, but I always try to go out to seek that. So if you know of any economic equity folks, and really anybody that would love to work with our office, you're more than welcome to connect them with me. And I know I'll leave my contact information in the chat before we all leave today. And let's see. Katie asked, what are some key milestones you've identified as benchmarks for progress? So I know for our office, we've experienced, as I said, quite a few changes. I started with the team at the beginning of the pandemic. So I believe I didn't have a true understanding of what was. It was just like, okay, how can we create something out of the space that we have right now? So that kind of gave me the freedom to be imaginative on to see like, okay, this is what happened before, but I'm not married to it. So how can we translate it to something that is online, or something that we can digitize, or something we can, send out, or figure out different ways we can get out when we couldn't leave our houses. So for me, I think when I started to see more people engage with us that might have heard about us from a social media post or from a conversation that we might have been a part of, that's the exciting part, that we're starting to see more people engage with us and get to know us, and not just be larger corporations or, larger traditional organizations that work with city government. We want to make sure that, if someone's interested in getting to know how they can be a part of the solution, we will find a way to connect you. So I think for us, seeing the growth and seeing the diversity of folks that are understanding what we do, that's been really exciting to see over this time of uncertainty. And with WeBoss, yes, WeBoss, Sandra, we had to go virtual these past 2 years, and yes, it's been tough because I'm a people person. I love to be around people. I love to chat and network and, and just be in the room and, I thrive off that energy. And I feel as though, especially for, our small business owners and, venture capital folks and everyone who's in that space, look forward to WeBoss Week just to kind of commune and get to know each other. But, with the pandemic, we knew we couldn't have that, but there was also an opportunity to really speak to a moment and, talk about what's going on in these businesses and how can we, talk about what the Office of Economic Opportunity has, going on. Because I know they constantly have like office hours and they have a number of partners and they have grants for different initiatives. So that was just an opportunity for us to kind of really say, like, this is what's going on. This is what we have. And, other folks like at Mainvest, worked with us as well to host programming. So for the past 2 years, it's been virtual. We try to do in person, but then that week it rained all week and we wanted to do it outside. Shame on us. So hopefully next year we'll see how things are in the fall. But if anything, we just had to pivot to virtual and we're looking at ways to expand the programming throughout the year. I'm just reading. All right. And since we're recording, I'll just read. Lauren said, I love the idea of trying to tackle what may feel like a smaller item, like just getting more streets or bridges, et cetera, named after women. How is your office inspired to think of additional projects like this? Not something like childcare where we can see an immediate need for, but would be nice. It's something I would never even thought about, but wow, should be done. I agree. For us, we try to look at equity and, and feminism in a way that is so granular that sometimes we kind of don't recognize or take for granted. So like, for example, when we talk about street names, I know that that's something we don't even think about because a lot of times those are last names. But when we think about just like historically, thinking about patriarchy, all of those things, just seeing how little of a footprint women have been allowed to have over history, it kind of can subconsciously just kind of put you in a place to say that women in general, and let's not even get into women of color, that erasure of how important we are and how much we contribute, right? So when we think about these small things that might be schools or bridges or whatever, what have you, we think of this like, okay, how can even on a subconscious level, can this empower a woman or empower anyone really? Because we understand that a lot of individuals have to overcome in order to be successful or just to, live the life that they deem fit. So when we think about these kind of initiatives, I know in the past we have a lactation center that was put up in City Hall because we wanted to make sure that we had something like that in a space where those that are lactating and need to nurse have a space to do so. And that has inspired other cities to follow suit. So really it's about being creative. And I know in this past March 2020 pandemic, because it's just going on forever. We're trying to get back into that innovative space to say, okay, what's next? And I know the administration has been engaging with us to see what that looks like going forward. So I'm really excited to see what will come of those conversations. But like I said, if there's any ideas where you think that there's a way that we can, promote gender equity, and there's a space where, we need an advocate for women, let me know. I'm more than happy to figure out how we can connect those dots. Okay, so, and then, okay, Sandra, just going back to you, and thank you, Sarah and Kristen. Oh, wait, Sarah, sorry. Okay, so I'm gonna go to Sarah next. So Sarah said, the office seems to have such creative approaches. Thanks for sharing. I'd love to hear a bit about how your office balances inspiring, supporting young women and girls with the meeting the needs of adult women. So that is a space that I'm very passionate about, because I think about that empowerment from birth on, because I think everyone should know the contributions and the power that, those that have come before them have, and the things that they can contribute to their everyday. So when we think about how to balance that, sometimes it's picking and choosing, really, because I know when I first came in, I wanted to do so much, but because one, capacity, we have a small team, and it's like, I want to come and change the world, but it's like, I have to plan that, and that takes time. So, when we think about how we engage younger folks, we've worked with our partners at BPS, BCYF. I know there's community organizations. Actually, there's one that we honored through Extraordinary Women last year. And they were a club in one of the BPS high schools, and they ended up meeting on Zoom, and it became a thing in different cities, and they talk about women's issues and how it is to be a girl in high school and how they can come together and do better. And then they even went international. So you know what I mean? Like and really they reached out to us just to say, hey, we just want to get to know your office. So we've also worked with Girl Scouts. We'll find opportunities to talk individually at different events, but I know we want to think of a more concentrated effort around how we engage women in every part of their life. And yes, women are opening businesses all the time, Sandra, and I know we're looking. I don't know what it'll look like if we'll be in person. I know we try to hope for the best and plan accordingly. I know we were looking to try to have some things outside, so it might be hybrid, who knows? When we get closer to the fall, I know we'll share that information out about what we also look like. So I'm gonna go to Katie's question first, and then I'll come back to Shannon. But because it's not directly about the office, but it's a little bit about my work beforehand. So Katie had asked, can you explain the Boston Women's Workforce Council and share what it's been working on how members can engage with on how you all can engage with council. So the Boston Women's Workforce Council is our private partner in a public-private relationship where they are charged with collecting and analyzing the data for different workplaces in Boston. So they have compact signers, which are a number of businesses and organizations in Boston who say, we essentially, they're signing a compact saying we will hand over our employee data, just, basic aggregate things such as, race, gender, and pay, so they can figure out the wage gap for the corporation. And they do that every 2 years. And in between, they have different reports and interventions and numbers of conversations with business owners on how they can create more effective and equitable workplaces. So with that, the BWWC mainly engages with workplaces, but I know that they're in a space where they're expanding, where that conversation comes in. And I know a lot of times we handle, in our department, we handle those more individual conversations, but we're starting to look at how we can strengthen that relationship so we can have different tools. I know we're working on a wage gap calculator. So if you ever want to look at the numbers for, your workplace, your department, if you have that, if you have access to those things, because sometimes, for example, I'm in a public space. So, if you want to work with those numbers and see what the gaps are, you're more than welcome to do that. But I think they're looking to start talking to individuals more about educating them on the wage gap issue in Boston. So I do see, I'm going to take a sip of coffee first, because I know I've been talking a lot. I see that Shannon did ask a question about something that was in my bio. I created a My Voice, My Vote series some time ago. So I will kind of pivot and share a little bit about myself, because I know sometimes I just come in and, want to talk about the things that I do during the day, but this is definitely a labor of love, and this is a passion of mine to work in a space where I can help empower others. I have been a part of a number of advocacy organizations for a very long time, including the NAACP. I've been a part of the organization for over, I want to say almost probably 13, 14 years. I started in college. And today I am in leadership with the National Office's Next Gen program, which helps develop the next generation of civil rights leaders across America. So during my time before I came to Massachusetts, I'm originally from New Jersey. I was the Youth Works Chair for the state. And I wanted to think of a way to get young people engaged around issues, but knew that a lot of them, it was before they were able to vote. So I decided to think of a program called My Voice, My Vote. And this was a time where we had these little town halls throughout the state in different places, and talk to high schoolers about how, what are the issues that are going on in their community, who can they talk to, how can they advocate, what does it look like to go to a city council meeting, what does it look like to go to a school board meeting, and if there's an issue, how you can speak up, and really getting them to flex that muscle, so that way when they are of age and they were ready to vote, it was second nature and it wasn't a task for them to want to get involved. So it was really great to see those young folks like really latch on, and you see that aha moment happen, because I know civics class is not a thing of the past in a lot of spaces. So to have people understand how they can be owners of their government and how they can get involved and use their voice collectively, that always kind of gets me going. So that's an outline of that program. So I'm looking forward to creating more opportunities like that, when through the office and when I have some free time, whatever free time is. But yeah, thank you for that. Okay, and then Pendary asks, what's the best way for JL and our community partners to register our support for your initiatives? Childcare, for example. How can both our organization and JL members as individuals support what you're doing to show policymakers, funders, et cetera, that this issue is essential? So I will say the best way to get involved with our office, I think this is a great, first step. And always think of anytime you may see me or someone from my office, we really just want to know what's going on with you all as members of this community, as folks who live here, work here, navigate this city, that your experience is valued, and we want to know how we can work together so that you feel empowered, and making sure that you're getting a fair wage, and that you're physically safe, and making sure that parents can navigate their care needs. Those things are really important and create space. But if there's a way that you are away or something that you don't know, we are always welcome to listen, and we are always welcome to figure out how, if there's a new need, how we can find space for that. So for us, I will, when I have a minute, I'm going to put all of the links and the contacts in the chat. I'm pretty handy via email, so you are more than welcome to reach out to me. This is my job. So my job is to talk and get to know people. So if you're working in an industry, or you have an idea, you just want to get connected to some of the things that are going on, you're more than welcome to reach out to us. But we have a newsletter, we have social media, so we tend to push things out that way. So
awesome. Thank you so much, Ayanna. Does anybody have any last minute questions? Just give it another minute. I want to be cognizant of everyone's time. Also, feel free to unmute if you're more comfortable with that as well. All right. Well, Ayanna, if you're comfortable with that, I can also send a follow-up email with all of your contact information, just so people have it ready. But unless there's any other questions, then thank you so much, everyone, for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you so much for having me, everyone. I just put my email in the chat just in case anybody wanted to reach out, but I know you'll get that information soon. Thank you so much for having me again.
Thank you so much, Ayanna. This was amazing.
Take care.
Bye, everyone. Have a great afternoon.